This is Joe,
Michelle, Melissa,
and Shannon
with More Than a Sniff, where we talk about everything dog.
From training to nutrition,
from behavior modification to grooming,
from vet visits to dog parks,
from getting to know us to having guests. Today we're going to talk about... Okay. So I have Michelle, Melissa, and Shannon here. And we are doing our podcast series on the working dog.
Okay.
And our first one is going to be on the herding dog and the dog that kind of works the ranch and everything. So we're going to get started and we'll have questions for you.
Perfect.
Okay. So Michael, tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll get into the working dog aspect of it all.
Okay, so what I do is I train stock dogs for a living, of all breeds, Border Collies, Australian Shepherds, Kelpies, McNabs. I select a working dog that can handle the roughest of cattle, roughest of stock, but can also handle, baby lambs, the gentlest of stock. I'm based out here in Tooele, Utah.
And when you say, as far as, training dogs, are you training other people's dogs? Are you training dogs for yourself? Are you training dogs, to be sold for ranches?
Yeah. So yes, to all three. I take in 10 outside client dogs a month, and I'm also working my own dogs who I'm going to put into my breeding program and keep. And also my own dogs who I'm going to sell to ranchers or people who want to compete in the cow dog trials.
Gotcha. And so what makes, well, first of all, what got you started into training the stock dog?
Out of necessity. I was cowboying for a living, working on ranches, and my job was just getting harder and harder without a good dog. And my grandpa showed me how to train dogs when I was younger. I had a few good ones. But I started going around the country, learning from a bunch of different people on how to make a great dog. And it just kind of grew from there. I just kept getting better dogs and getting better at training them. And it made my job a whole lot easier.
And tell us a little bit about that. How did having a good dog that can work the cows and get out there with you make your job easier?
So it saves your horse. When you're out cowboying, it saves your horse. Your horse doesn't have to go into a draw to get cattle, doesn't have to go up a hill to get cattle. Your dog can hold a gate if you're alone and you need to sort some cows off. My dogs will stretch about 3/4 of a mile, some a little further. So I can send them that far and they'll bring the cattle to me. It sure saves a lot of riding.
Sure.
And a lot of work.
What do you find the most enjoyable about watching them do their job and working next to you through that?
The fact that they love it. You can just see in all of my dogs, their main goal is to please me, and they will go lengths and lengths just to please me. I love seeing that in a dog. I love seeing that willingness to do their job and to please me. They truly do love it.
Do you find that when there's a stretch in the year that there's not a lot of cowboying, not that it completely stops, but it's just not as intense? Do you find that the dogs will kind of, behave differently with you when they're not doing their job and getting out there?
So the obedience is still there. They still mind. A stock dog has to mind all the time. You can never let it do its own thing. But what I've found is they just get into a little more trouble on their own when they don't have a job to do.
Yeah. Michelle, what questions do you have?
Yeah, so mine kind of has a little lead in, but I know for me, and I assume everybody, we have some clients who think that to make their dog happy, they need to buy the best toys and they need to buy all these treats and have such plush conditions, if that makes sense. Can you explain how you make your dogs happy and how working makes them happy? Kind of fulfilling their purpose. If that
You bet. So as dogs are like people, they're goal oriented. If you give your dog a goal, if you give it something to do, especially if they have that willingness to please, that's fulfillment for them. They will die trying, and they'll love doing it.
That's awesome.
Michael, what I think sometimes the hardest thing for people in just the general public that don't get to experience the cowboy life or the Western lifestyle, you'll see ranch dogs hanging out on the back of the trucks. You'll see, a lot of times the dogs live outside. And sometimes that's, not the reality to, us city folks and us that live in a concrete world. What advice or what information can you give people out there that, I know you've come across it where people don't feel like you care about your dogs and don't feel like you're giving them, what us city people would give them. Kind of get into that a little bit.
Sure. So to start off, my dogs are like my family. They are also a tool, but they're a tool that you have to take care of. And my dogs live outside. They have adequate shelter. And the reason why I do that is because when it's 20 degrees outside, if they were in the house in a 70-degree environment, well, when I take them outside, they're not acclimated to the weather, and they're going to suffer for it. I believe a dog, as long as they're built for it and have an adequate coat, needs to be a dog. And as far as riding on the back of the truck, our dogs love to ride on the back of the truck. But we do tie them on. These dogs are valuable, and so we don't want to see them jumping off the side of the truck and getting ran over. But we don't want them in the cab where it's 60 degrees, where they're going to be suffering because it's too hot.
Right.
These dogs need to be accustomed to the weather that they're working in, and like I just said, they're a tool to us, but they're a tool that we love. And if we didn't take care of them, they wouldn't have that willingness to please us, and they just wouldn't work.
Right. I think that we forget, if I was, working in corporate America and, the value of what I had to bring to a company, right? Once I'm all trained and, I am more valuable than having to retrain somebody else. And I believe that the dogs are that way too, that, there's value to them, even though there are tools, there's definitely there's definitely value to them and what their job is that they're doing. Tell me a little bit about the price range of the dogs that, as far as if I was a rancher and needed a dog and, there's definitely different criterias that ranchers need, but what's the price range for a working dog?
Sure. So, puppies, 8 weeks old, right, weaned right off their mother, they start at $1,000 and they go up from there, just depending on the cross and what the parents have produced and won. Started dogs, they're usually about a year old, have 60 days worth of training. They're going to be able to do small jobs on their own. They're still going to need a little bit of help. Those dogs start in the $2,500, $3,000 range and just go up from there, depending on the quality. Your finished dogs, a good finished dog is going to be about a minimum of $8,000 and go up. There was 2 dogs that just sold in Red Bluff, California for $30,000 each. So it can just go from $8,000 to $30,000. Yeah.
And the time that you spend with your dog out there, just going back to you using, and having a companion out there to work the cows with you. And a lot of ranches will do that. You get hired as the cowboy, and then it's your responsibility to either wrangle up the help, or sometimes you can't because it's 4:00 in the morning and you got to get out and get the job done. What is that relationship that happens between you and your dog out there, just working together as a team to accomplish a goal? But also those cows will kill the dogs if put in a sticky situation.
Sure. So the difference is I've worked with many other cowboys before, and some really good ones. But those dogs and I, we're so in tune with each other, and we're on the same wavelength as far as our brains. He knows what I want, and I know what he wants without having to talk to each other. And so we're more efficient that way. Plus, a dog is going to show up every morning to go to work. He's going to be happy about it, and he's going to work his guts out for you all day long. Whereas, sometimes hired help, they don't show up. They don't. Their heart's not in it. I've been on a few ranches that have decreased the amount of help they hire because they know I'm going to bring my dogs and they don't need that extra manpower.
Right. Shannon, what questions do you have?
A lot of people that live in the city and a lot of our listeners, their relationship with their dog is just solely that of a companion, really, for their life. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, like, your dog being your coworker, really. Sure.
So there's a few dogs that, I will travel with and they are a companion with, but they're a companion second. They are my coworker first and foremost. They have a job to do. We have a job to complete. When we're working, we're solely a team, a partnership, if you will. When the work's done, then we can play. It's very important to have a bond with your dog. If they don't like you, they won't work for you.
Yeah, and I think that really just sums up how, society is in the workforce is if you have a really crappy coworker, it's not going to work well
Sure.
at all. So, Michael, you also trial dogs and you have done well. Talk a little bit about what drove you into the competition world and talk a little bit about the trial itself and how that helps you and your dog stay sharpened up on what their job is.
Sure. So when I first started trialing, I had good dogs. I didn't have great dogs. But you're really only as good as your competition. And if you stay at home all the time, you never expose yourself or your dogs. And so by going to these trials, I was able to see the holes in my dogs, meaning the things we needed to fix at home. And I was able to go home, fix them, and go back to another trial and win. And so, the trial really makes you focus on finessing your dog's commands. In the cow dog world, when I give a command, I expect it to happen right now. Like when I tell a dog down, I don't want it to take a couple of steps and then down. I want it to, when I say down, lay flat on its belly right there and don't move until you're told to do so. So the trials just really, really help you stay focused and finessed on your dog's training. The trial themselves, there's an association here locally. Well, it's not really locally. It's the whole West Coast. It's called Mountain State Stock Dog Association. They have point and time trials. They let 3 cattle into the arena. They have some obstacles set up. You have to drive and fetch those cattle through the obstacles, and whoever does it fastest with the most amount of points wins. Now, your dog, if they're not in the right position at the right time, or if you don't have a dog tough enough to handle those cattle, well, then you're not going to do well. So if you go to a trial and you don't do well, take what you learn there, take it back home, apply what you need to apply, and then I promise you when you go back, it'll be a lot better outcome.
And in that, in the trialing world, I went to my first one this year with you, and talk a little bit about that environment and just kind of how what drives you to keep going and being in that competitive world.
Sure, it's the camaraderie. I showed horses for a long time, and I still do. And the people at the horse show world, not all the time, but most of the time, it's a cutthroat industry. You don't have people sharing information. You don't have people trying to help you out. That's the complete opposite of the dog world. Everyone is there to have fun. Everyone is there to see their friends. If you're struggling in an area, you've got 20 other handlers that are willing to lend a hand or information to help you. For example, I went to the Denver Stock Show in January, where the top open handlers in the country were there competing for the big prize. After the first day of trialing, a bunch of us handlers went to dinner, and you had open handlers there giving information to their competitors on how to beat them the next day. I don't think you can go to any other function and find
Right.
that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Do you think any dog can be a herding dog?
Oh, you bet. Well, they have to have the instinct.
Yeah.
It just depends on what your goals are. If you want a ranch dog, there's a lot of different ranch dogs, type of dogs that will do it. In my lab, I have a yellow lab, and she'll go out and herd a little bit.
Yeah.
It's more she's more just having fun instead of being serious about wanting to work. But as long as your dog has the desire, you can do basic herding.
Yeah, we this a couple of months ago went up north and were moving cows, pushing them into a different pasture to calve, and there was a little mini schnauzer out there pushing cows with us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she didn't get in as intense, but she knew kind of how to open up and keep them moving with us, and that was super fun to see. How do you know if your dog has it or not?
You just need to expose them. Dogs with a lot of drive are usually ones that want to do a job. Like I said, some dogs are going to be more serious than others, but even the less serious dogs, you can still accomplish a job with, and you can still have fun with them.
So if I had, I don't know, let's say if I had a French bulldog, and can I go in and trial with that dog?
Absolutely, any breed is welcome. We don't discriminate against any dogs. If you feel your dog will wants to go and trial, and you want to go and trial, it doesn't matter what you have. You just show up and have a good time.
Great. So, Michael, we're actually getting ready to pair up with you and offer our clients, all of us city folks, a herding dog class and series, and I'm hoping we get some kind of eclectic breeds, and who knows what might end up in the trials with us. It'll be a fun journey with you with that.
You bet. I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be great. You guys have any more questions? Michelle and Melissa have some more questions.
Just for us city folks, do you have any advice if you are interested in the stock dog training? Because obviously we are not going to be out every day working cattle, so it's going to be different, I assume. Do you have any advice?
Sure, yeah. So I just make sure your dog minds you. A good down is essential, and being able to walk away from your dog while they're laid down and then called back to you, we call that a recall. That is essential in order to work stock. If you have that, we can build that. Even if you don't have that, we can teach you how to gain that. But if you already have that, you're just going to be that much further ahead.
That's awesome. So what advice? Well, first of all, I know we all here really believe that it's important for a dog to have a purpose and some job in the pack's life. What advice would you give to people that are kind of wanting to connect with their dog on a deeper level and have their dog be a teammate and a fellow worker in life? Like, how would you suggest going about giving your dog a purpose?
Sure. So just give them a goal to accomplish. Like I said, they're very goal-oriented. If you give them something to accomplish and you let them do it, they're going to be searching for the next task to complete.
And what could that goal be?
Oh, something as simple as loading up on a back of a truck or loading up in a barrel. A fetch. Just teaching your dog to fetch. Working on basic obedience. As long as you, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what you do with your dog, as long as you're doing something with it to where you guys both are working towards a goal, your dog's going to have that level of respect for you, and they're going to develop that willingness to please, to where it doesn't matter what you expect of them, they're going to give their best to try to accomplish it.
And do you believe that one training style fits all?
No, I am not a fan of cookie cutter training techniques. I see every individual dog as its own, and I kind of fit my program around that certain dog. Like I said, I have 10 outside client dogs a month, and so I'm seeing a lot of different dogs. And if I had a cookie cutter program, 90% of those dogs would fail. I'd have to send them home. Where I'm able to kind of fit the dog or fit my program to the dog, I have a much higher success rate that way.
That's awesome. I have enjoyed working with you and continue our journey. And the three of us will be, the three others of us will be on that journey with you. And I can't wait for you to meet everybody. And we're going to definitely have you back on after we get started and talking about more of this, just to create that drive of people working with their dogs.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Michael. Have a good day.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good one.